Welcome to the Keelhauled podcast. I'm your host, CaptainLogun, and we've got a lot of Sea of Thieves news to cover today. So tie yourselves to the mast and hold fast. Ahoy there, pirates. I hope you had yourselves a good week and a good weekend. I know I did. This week, we're going to be talking with none other than Caleb as we dive into all of the things that are Sea of Thieves in season 13. And we're going to be talking a little bit about our latest adventure, which is actually on the seas right now. We are actually fishing. We're going to be jumping into some of that, as well as some of the questions that come around these latest skeleton camps, whether or not we should be pushing the story forward sooner rather than later, or if Flameheart should have his time to shine. All that and more in this week's episode of Keelhauled Podcast. But before we get into any of that, I have to thank the patrons. They're the ones that went over to patreon.com/Keelhauled Podcast to support this content for me and you. I appreciate all of them. They definitely help take care of the bills that are coming in from this podcast. It's one of those weird things where the stuff that I use is stuff that I am used to using, and it's something that helps get the podcast out done a lot faster, as well as make sure that, you know, if I'm going to be moving forward with moves, things like that, this all helps. This is part of what I do for the podcast, as far as like using the software that I need for editing, for video, for stuff like that, and just makes things a lot simpler. So in case I need to upgrade anything in the future, that this is always kind of where those funds go. So I always appreciate it. It's never something that is required. It is always ever something that if you want, then you can. If not, don't worry about it. The content's still there. Just as a reminder too, I want my captains to know that you are going to be getting into the next episode of the podcast. So August 24th, that is when we're going to be doing the next Gold Hoarder episode. So make sure that you guys have that in the back of your minds. Set some time aside on Saturday so that you can jump in. We'll usually be recording for about an hour and a half, depending on things, how things go. There's always an event in the Discord, but it is set up to be at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, usually about an hour and a half. So make sure you show up about 5-10 minutes early. There's a specific Discord channel just for the voice chat for those Gold Hoarder members that have the access to that. Anyone is welcome to jump in even if you just want to come out and see what it's like. If you just want to hang in there in chat and you don't really feel like necessarily speaking, it's nice just to have everyone kind of jump in, share their thoughts and feelings about whatever's bugging them, because I know lately there have been a lot of issues with some of the bugs that's been going on, especially with like latency, with crashes, rubber banding, things like that I'm sure folks probably have on their mind that the team wants to know about. Also want to get some thoughts in about like the blunderbuss changes that are coming up in season 14, as well as the grapple hook, and just how things are going along with your season so far. Have you been enjoying the Burning Blade? Have you been checking out the skeleton camps? Has there been any questions that you have that you want looked into regarding the lore? All of that kind of stuff is all available there for any of the gold hoarders that want to jump in and actually share some thoughts and some feelings on the game in its current state. So with that, let's shout out all of the gold hoarders for this week. Thank you to Adorable, Alex C. Alex, by the way, new member. Let me know what you'd like to have as your call out for the actual the podcast episodes and stuff. So you can always DM me either in Discord or over on Patreon. Just let me know what you'd like to use as your call out name. That way you know that I am getting it to be whatever it is that you want it to be. L Cute, a potted plant, Balls, Blue Turtle V1, Captain Chonky, Captain Hayes, Captain Longsharts, Chateau Neuf, Super Pack, Zombie Killer, Cloud, Cosmic Johnson, Static Mirror, Davrum TV, El Jefe Esteban, Fergatron, Godhammer 6, Jorby Jorbs, J Hood, Carl Embo, Kylea the Aficionado, Cryptic Slayer, Lumpy SRQ, Evil Morpheus, Space Admiral Ors, Xbox Mike 29, Murphy Lives, Mutinous Max, Norwegian, Regis Stella the Brony Pirate, Ribloid, Rest Bell Kid, Scamel 666, Captain Dasm, Tommy D, TN Professor, Big Bad Pad, Mina Fairy, Captain J Rat of the Flaming Cold Sore, the Lore Chronologist Deadeye Dre, Hager Owl, Jeff H, Captain Duckweed, Evil Martha, Peter Miller, Rooski Doo, Thor Von Blitz, Luke Lore the Insipid Ghost, and Zam Wow. Thank you all so much for your support and your love. And also we do want to bid adieu to Captain J Rat of the Flaming Cold Sore. He is going to be leaving us in the Gold Hoarders for the time being. It is always a sad day when folks need to change out their Patreon, but we always appreciate them and welcome them back if they ever want to join up. Otherwise, we will see them in the Discord or on the seas, and hope they all have a wonderful time out there. With that, pirates, let's get into it. Welcome, Caleb, to the first inaugural fishing episode, where we are most definitely fishing for the sake of, I don't know why we're fishing. We're fishing for a reason, but welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing well, and I'll tell you the reason we're fishing. We're fishing for the same reason mankind has fished with their friends for generations. It's a fun way to hang out.
That's true. I can't really fault you for that.
Let me compliment you on your choice of fishing rod. I like the spear at the tip of it.
Oh, yeah. It's really good for not the fishing we're doing, but definitely fishing in another way. So if you're just listening to this right now and you're not sure what the heck we're talking about, Caleb and I are now on a sloop. We're currently in safer seas because that was the only way I was going to agree to subject myself to playing a video game while trying to record a professional podcast and not get attacked. But we are currently on safer seas playing Sea of Thieves. So the video VOD is this is going to actually have us actually doing what we're doing, and you actually see us participating in that. But Caleb wanted to come onto the show. It's been a while since he's been here. And we wanted to just kind of cover some of the news. So I don't know how good the fishing is going to be on my part, because I'm going to be kind of hosting the show. But I wanted to kind of get a gauge and see, Caleb, how you've been liking season 13 so far.
You know, it's been a joy and a pleasure for sure. The new world event is spicing things up around here.
I like the Burning Blade.
Yeah,
it's good stuff.
I do like it. As we talk about the Burning Blade, we're doing what is maybe the most opposite activity of the Burning Blade.
It's true. Yeah, we're hanging out on safer seas, which is interesting that the Burning Blade isn't on here, given the PvP aspect of it. But there is still a level of PvE that can be done, maybe? I actually don't know. I'm kind of curious if you can do any of like the stopping the rituals on safer seas. Because they're definitely here.
Yeah, as I understand it, you can do the camps just to get orbs. But the Burning Blade part of it's not here.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Which is interesting. I'm okay with it, actually, because I think one of the best parts about the Burning Blade is actually the interaction with other crews. Otherwise, you're just kind of sailing in a really overpowered ship with nothing to stop you, at which point, you know, what's the point? You might as well be on safer seas.
You know, I'm of two minds about it myself. It starts out obviously as a PvP event, but so are the other events that are not in safer seas, namely the Fort of Fortune and the Fort of the Damned. Those are PvP events that attract PvE events that attract PvP. I understand that, but you know, in my mind, there are accommodations that are already locked to things you would need to be able to do only when there's other crews about. So I feel like that's the fail-safe for, you know, fine to do some of it on safer seas, but you know, I understand both sides.
Yeah, I could definitely see why having like a big PvE threat like the Burning Blade would be fun in safer seas. Give a really outrageous kind of obstacle to have to tackle. I feel like we have enough, given the nature of what safer seas is kind of intended for. It's intended to kind of give you that opportunity to learn a little bit about the game before actually going into high seas.
Yeah.
And you know, I think with the skeleton fleets and the skeleton ships, you get a good gauge on how you should be approaching ship-to-ship combat with PvE fights. Without that PvP nature, it's hard to really justify the other aspect of the Burning Blade itself, in my mind.
Right. Yeah. It seems to me that some of it would simply, by nature of the accommodations and way it works, be locked to you know, what do you call high seas? You know, sinking another ship to get the sword, firing on another ship, killing Athena people. All those things you just naturally can't do on safer seas. But I met pirates who said it was their first day sailing. They met me while I was attacking the Burning Blade, and I showed them and taught them how to crew the Burning Blade and sent them on their merry way. So I could tell you, Day 1 pirates, first coming across it in a non-safe environment, you know, I'm afeared for them a little bit.
Well, I mean, to be fair, there's no reason why they couldn't have picked safer seas. Sometimes I wonder if maybe the introduction to Sea of Thieves should be something that's a little more akin to safer seas to start with, because it kind of feels like you are throwing them into the mix, but you're not really telling them, like, they have options, but you're not really explaining what the options are to an extent to give them a good gauge on, like, whether or not they should start with safer seas. Because
sure, here
they have safer seas, which is kind of the intended to be the lighter mode to get people introduced to the game. Yet Day 1 pirates running into the Burning Blade seems kind of like the antithesis of the point of safer seas, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think this game has always had a problem. I think they've admitted it, and I'm sure if we went back into the archives of this podcast, you've talked about it. Maybe even we've talked about it, that it's always been a little difficulty, the new player experience in this game, and no matter what you do, no matter how many notifications you put up, it's still all a little obtuse.
Yeah. I don't know how they really address that outside of locking players to safer seas.
There's really nothing to it but to have somebody hold your hand, which is the way I was introduced to the game. I imagine it's the way a lot of people are introduced to this game.
Well, definitely for a majority of them. I can't imagine anyone who managed to jump into this game solo, survived the first few days, and actually decided to keep going that route without looking for help. Yeah.
But the event is a lot of fun. I've gotten almost all the combinations. Just have to get a few more swords. It's been a journey. Being here in the moment of the great exploit of the Sea of Thieves was a moment in time.
Yeah. I really like what they've done with the Burning Blade. I think, long ago, Mike Chapman had kind of talked about wanting to have this grandiose ending to, like, Flameheart, like have something that really kind of showcased what the beauty of Sea of Thieves could be. And I think a lot of that kind of, you can see the makings of that with the Roar. You can see that with Hearst Sails and Megalodons. And I think, as you kind of move forward in the future from that original beginnings of what those first events were, given the the historical ties to it, not only that, but just the little nods to what we've seen as far as the red orb, as an example, being the original thing that was brought to one of the Order of Souls representatives, and turns out it's come full circle. It's clear that the Burning Blade feels like that grandiose thing that the team wanted to do with the game, with Flameheart, to bring full justification to his return. Do you feel like they've hit that? Do you feel like it's that big grand thing that they wanted, and that they've succeeded at, like, the full return of Flameheart at this point?
I think in many ways, yes. If I can start with the tiny way it feels like it's not, just to get it out of the way, just the short man sitting on a throne out in the open, where I feel like he could easily be attacked and taken care of, by his enemies, feels a little anticlimactic, right?
I have a counterpoint for that.
It'd be more prestigious if he was down in a spot down below in his hideout, much like the Pirate Lord is.
Yeah.
But before I move on to the ways I do think it is cool, tell me what's your counterpoint.
Okay, so first off, Ramsey's a coward for hiding down in there. Let's just address the fact that that's where he's at. Much like Conan the Barbarian on his throne, Flameheart fears no no threat, no man coming to kill him. Nothing can kill him. He is flame and pirates for all eternity.
I'd feel that if he wasn't in just like a little tent.
You know, that tent, a lot of history to that tent.
Hey,
a lot of history.
Why don't we move onto the island? Let's ditch this boat.
You want to get rid of the... did you lose a fish too? Is that why?
I don't want to talk about it.
Okay. All right. I was willing to bear the burden of being with you on the whole, you know, like losing a fish to the back of the canopy, but...
Oh, do you have the crate? Yes, you do.
Yeah, I got the crate. Question is where's a good... I just hit
good spot.
I just hit 40. I always like to check and see what the actual, like, level marker is for the reputation. I don't want to get too, or for the plunder pass. I don't want to get too off topic because I definitely want to see what's going on, but... you're one of the few people I know that actually look at the renown levels and actually check out what you're getting when you actually like hit that level. Like you go actually where the actual stuff that you get.
Yeah.
It's rare to actually like run into people who kind of actually want to see that and experience it. Like I have a thing where I usually like to put whatever cosmetics I get for the ship on like a ship for that season. So like season 11 will have its own captain ship, and that captain ship will have all of the cosmetics from the plunder pass.
I love that. It's a great concept.
Yeah, a little way to just kind of pay tribute to the stuff that came in that season, so it's a little bit easier to remember. If we ever get loadouts for clothing, I'd probably want to do something like that as well too, but they would have to like have an indefinite amount of clothing loadouts, which I can't imagine is that impossible.
Well, even a colossal company like, or game I should say, like Fortnite, they still limit the amount you have. It's something like, I don't know, the 120 presets, which is a great amount, but still it's a limited. It's because they don't have infinite server space. So I'll take whatever limit you want to give us. I've long since, as so many other people said, we should loadouts. I love changing my clothes out, and if I ever don't when I want to, it's just because it's such a burden. I feel like I've played this particular harmonica before, but this is I do like to wear the new stuff. Check it out for a little bit. The new coat that you get on the Plunder Pass track is straight fire. The mask is a unique thing. It's a hat slot, but it's like it covers your whole face. Interesting stuff. I like the cute things like the fish tankard, the fish sword,
the little puffer fish.
Yeah, amazing. The bone fish sword, the crab figurehead. I love that there's cute things, there's cool things, there's serious things, there's goofy things. I love that variety.
Yeah, having the little bit of things like here and there, little one-offs, I like that as kind of a way to be like, you know, this doesn't have to be a part of a full set, but it is just something like someone had a wild hair idea one day and they're like, let's go with that. It doesn't have to be a whole thing, but you know, that's just someone had a concept idea and they're like, oh yeah, we should totally do this at some point.
I want you to note something, Logan. We are currently getting nighttime variants of fish. I want you to watch how quickly those nighttime variants dry up. Because night is very short in this game.
Yeah,
it's like less than a quarter of the cycle.
I mean, you know, nighttime is typically a little bit less when it comes to fishing. They have to sleep too.
They get tuckered out.
Back to Flameheart though, because I think you bring up an interesting point about Flameheart just kind of being out in the open. It is something that I think is true that, you know, he may be probably a little bit more prestigious down in the Reaper's Lair, but given the nature of the Reaper's Lair and how you are locked out of it until you hit your curse, really that is and will forever be something that rubs me the wrong way as someone who loathes Hourglass. I mean, we did some today and we actually did pretty good. We got some good levels because it is Golden Glory weekend. It just doesn't feel like that's something that should be locked behind a PvP gate. I feel like having him available for everyone to see, even if it is kind of out there in the open. Like, it just shows like a sense of confidence that behooves Flameheart, in my opinion.
You got a big
It
fish.
very much perception. Yeah, I did.
The trophy?
Yeah, trophy smoked ancient scale, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, I think you once suggested make the Flameheart lair level 75 or whatever, some level of Reapers.
Yeah.
That would solve that problem. But great, the way it is now, yeah, you don't want to gate off something too, which is a pretty high barrier to get that level 100 in Hourglass.
Yeah.
But I think I skipped over saying the ways, so let me start with that. The ways it is cool. You know, that huge colossal ship, back when they had people on, they had you on once. We were talking about this earlier today. They had community members on for, I don't know if it was their weekly or monthly stream to show often new content. They had Bernie Burns on, formerly of Rooster Teeth, which is formerly of a company.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember him talking about two things in particular that I can bring up now. One is he mentioned about the sail being in different directions that didn't make sense. For example, if you're going against the wind, having what we call dummy sails or flat against the wind, was that intended? And one of the developers was, you could tell it was a little bit of a pain point for him, to borrow a phrase I hear you use. He was like, no, that's not the way we'd like it to be. And then he also asked them about, are we getting bigger ships? And they kind of laughed about it. And they were being kind of cagey. He's like, so what are you saying? 6-player ships? And their only answer was bigger. Think bigger. And if this is what they were thinking about with this what I would, many of us would call maybe a man of war, it took a really long time for these things to happen. They fixed the wind direction. Now we've got this bigger ship. It's a great, hey, here, it's a herald. Here's Flameheart. He is roaming the seas. He is either take him out, and even if you do, that threat's not over, because he's tempted pirates onto his side. And now there's a fierce fight on the waves. That seems very Flameheart. Very, at least, very Reaper.
Yeah, I really like the idea that there is, because I feel like this is a thing that really kind of goes back to the original concept of the Kraken. When they first started talking about the game, they talked about this Kraken and how they wanted this to be like an emergent world event, and it would just be huge and people could see it from across the sea, and they would either have that opportunity to go and actually like attack it or help the crew that was getting pulled into it. And when the game came out, like, the Kraken was fun, but it never really felt like a huge draw the way a 3-hour fort would be.
Right.
I think this is the first time that Rare has found like a proper roaming world event that isn't like based on trigger points like the Megs and the Kraken are. That really does kind of hearken to that concept of like, this is going to be something that really draws people in, that really pulls them to the event. And the event, because it's a roaming ship, and then after it's actually taken, it gives players an opportunity to go sail around the world. It kind of reminds me of those old school mercenary missions back in like 2019, where they wanted to give players a reason to go to different points in the world and congregate so that there would be interaction. And this feels like the first time that people are actually like gravitating towards it for something beyond just a skull. You know, like we had the Fort of the Dams, and then we had the Fort of Fortunes, and everything that they've brought to the world has always been a centralized location with a tornado or a skull, or, you know, like something to indicate that, you know, a big red head in the sky.
Right.
And this is the first time that we've actually had like something that it has a beacon. You can see it on the world map. But it's going to be roaming around on its own and actually like participating in the world as it's just a threat. Whether you like it or not, it's going to be near you. It's going to be a threat, whether it's manned by people or not.
Yeah. I think we all need to be prepared. Sea of Thieves has taught us the lesson that there are these really cool moments that, whether or not they are mercenary voyages or the Skull of Siren Song or Chests of Fortune or the new world event, it's even if it's designed to draw everyone together, that will relieve over time. And even today, I still see people fight over Chest of Fortune. Maybe that's unfair because they just released a new combination for it. But that number is so high. I imagine, for the rest of the game's life, people will still value that. We've seen things like a Chest of Legends. I'd say, that value's gone pretty darn low for how excited you are to steal it. Maybe the Chest of Legends is brought up to that. I feel like the Mermaid Skull, the Skull of Siren's song, is probably the fiercest drop-off I've seen. I really don't see people do that much anymore. I guess part of that may be misconception because you have to vote on it to see if it's being, worked on. And I'm not voting on it anymore. So maybe it is happening. I'm just not seeing it. But I really don't think it is. So I think we have... Oh, go ahead.
I would say that it's still fairly active. I know that especially towards the beginning of the year when Sea of Thieves came to PlayStation 5, everyone that was on PlayStation was running into that as like the first thing that you saw when you got on your boat.
Makes sense, yeah.
So that was the first. They thought that was the initial voyage. They're like, oh well, this voyage is right here on the mast. Yeah.
Well, lucky for them. Oh well, I was gonna say lucky for them. Nobody else is interested, but I guess their fellow new players were interested.
Yep.
I do feel like I see that note on my ship 100% of the uptime on my ship.
It does have it's not nearly as rare. Maybe that's the problem, is that it's not as rare as a proper world event. It's always available.
I gotta go cook some fish.
All right, I'm gonna drop mine off for the sake of dropping mine off. But I do think that if the actual like Briggsy, if the Briggsy like voyage was, if the Siren Skull voyage was actually more rare, like it should be as a kind of a world event, I think there's a much better opportunity for people to actually opt in when it does show up, because the scarcity is there.
Yeah, I think I think we do need prepared for the Burning Blade to be less lucrative or alluring for people as it gets older. It just seems to be the way of everything, more or less.
Anecdotally, I know even just people in my community, the Keelhauled community, have been able to do a fair amount of voyages or rituals without any kind of contention. Completely uncontested, which is, it's hard to see this early into, I mean, we still have 10 weeks of the actual season. We're only 2 weeks in and people are already running into uncontested burning blades without any actual opposition. Sometimes the opposition is really just one really stubborn ship.
Yeah, that's, I think, the nature of Sea of Thieves. I've heard a lot of brainstorming against it. I don't know if it is a thing that needs to be fixed. I think it's just part of its nature. But yeah, it's cool seeing, we waited a long time for Flameheart to come back. But I think some of what makes it not as impactful, not as celebrated, is two things. One, he's just kind of there. You just, all of a sudden now he's there. Even the Burning Blade, seeing it kind of being built, the boat's just here now. And now he's just at the hideout. But also, he's been, even though not a physical presence, he's still been a big presence on the Sea of Thieves for a long time. Even his initial world event, which was his big skull in the sky, that demanded your attention.
Yeah. It's nice to know that he's been ever present. I do kind of wonder if now that he's here, much to my chagrin, when Rare releases an update, they tend to let it lie and not really like do too much iteration unless there's major issue, because they've got so many ideas on things that they want to do that they end up kind of just moving on to the next project, and knowing that this game has got a half-life. There is a time ticking down on when this game won't be popular anymore, that they want to try and get as much of their ideas knocked out into the game as possible. And I kind of wonder if maybe this was kind of the crescendo to Flameheart's song. And now we're going to be moving on. They're going to try and do more with I mean, we're already seeing little hints and teases to One Piece. So I keep wondering about like the captain and to One Piece.
What is this? What One Piece things have we seen?
So the One Piece, it's the clothing and ship set that's in the Emporium this season. It's very much in kind of a homage to Buggy the Clown, which is one of the main pirates that ate the devil fruit in One Piece. That is literally all I know about it.
Can I ask genuinely, is it just because it's a clown, or is there aspects of its clown appearance that mimic that?
Actual aspects.
Because otherwise, if it's just because it's a clown, I would write it off myself.
I initially did, but the more I looked at the set, the more I compared it to Buggy, the more I was like, okay, I can see the little nods, like the stars, the smile. There's little things about it that actually do.
That might not mean a collab is coming. It could just be a nod to it, much like there's several things you put in here. There was a set that kind of looked like Captain Hook. There was a set that kind of looked like one of the Pirates from Pirates of the Caribbean. That wasn't it in name, but inspired by it. It's a pirate fantasy, so you hit some of it.
I do think that is probably part of the case. It's always hard to know with these kind of things, right? Until you actually see the collab happen.
Yeah.
There's only like homages that they could do. But it does kind of make me wonder with the future of Sea of Thieves. Now that Flameheart has kind of arrived, is there anything to that story that we can expect on? Like, is there anything that's going to drive that kind of story forward? Like, we have these rituals and we know that we're stopping them and starting them, but much like the Veil missions for Pirate Legends, those got kind of locked in time and are now kind of defunct as far as lore goes. They're no longer relevant based on the chronology of the lore.
Right.
And this too will be one of those situations. So do they leave Flameheart as he is now, and he is just a now a staple part of the world and the things you can do in it? Or are they going to actually move forward with the lore or do anything to change these little outposts that they now have out and about in the world? Like, are these rituals going to amount to anything? Is this Obsidian crew going to amount to anything?
Before I answer that, look to your right. Look at that tower. Then look between the giant cloud and the tower. It looks like there's two eyes made of clouds staring at us.
I see what you're saying. That is kind of weird.
Some eldritch being looking down from above.
Or it's a cloud.
No.
Could probably just a cloud though.
I think it's eldritch being that's looking down on us. I remember I faintly recall them talking about wanting the scenario to exist and not get the conclusion. They wanted to have different factions active on the Sea of Thieves, not to conclude them, but to have them exist. So I feel like Flameheart's presence on the Sea of Thieves is like having, the Pirate Lord's presence on the Sea of Thieves is now just like you said, a staple. I think they've placed themselves in a bad place with the Brethren Court. I think from the get-go, it was in its excellence in the pirate's life, but the end of the pirate's life really destroyed it, so it was almost nothing. And so they've been kind of like putting it on life support, and then any like little bit it's got cut off. A mystery happened, and the mystery, the Siren Queen is back. That never really, that kind of got dropped. The adventure path had them getting Amarada, and then getting the staff, and then getting investigating those portals where like the old world was coming back in with Briggsy, and then adventures got dropped. So I think they've put themselves in a poor place with them. I think as much as we all want them to do something to work in, it's gonna keep feeling forced as long as they keep dropping it. They were cool at a point, but they've been dropped so many times that you're really straining credulity and living off of the past to make them something that I want to care about.
So are you saying that it'd be better for them just to introduce a new villain and kind of start fresh with the story and kind of let some of these narrative threads that they've kind of had pulled on for a while, kind of just hang there, or maybe trim them off altogether.
Half of what you said there, the idea of leaving everything hanging there, and now you have a world to build on without tying up any loose ends. As a storyteller, as bad as I am with my show, the skill, the things I've put time into. I watched somebody play the piano, and I immediately got jealous. I got angry. I said, "Why am I getting angry, Caleb? Look at your heart. You're jealous. That's what this is." Because watching this guy with such talent playing the piano, and I spent some time thinking, what did I put my time in? What skills have I developed? And storytelling is part of the skills I've developed, just by nature of how many hours I put in, and time I put in, and thought I put in, and producing a product with it. And in storytelling, especially in a world of Pathfinder, you want to create a rich, vibrant world, which doesn't necessarily mean, I'm not talking about the genre. It could still be horror, whatever you have it, dark, gothic, but the world being rich, as in there's a lot in it. It's meaty. That is right in my face. That is the biggest fish I've ever seen. You want to create an interesting setting, and for that to happen, you have a lot of moving pieces. So they're creating the setting where we have this faction of Flameheart. He's here. He's in the Sea of Thieves, fighting against, the pirate lord and all he has going on, and then the outposts and the pirates who just want to fish, and the pirates who just want to merchant, and how do they factor into everything? And the thing here, the weakest part of these pillars that are holding up the world of Sea of Thieves is the Dark Brethren. So if they don't want to cut ties all that together and just admit we really bungled this and we're moving on, and they're just individual influences, not necessarily like a whole faction, to overuse that term. We want these things to stay. You don't want to resolve this, but we want the story to resolve, where there's a big battle and Flameheart loses and pirates prevail. Huzzah! Unless it's the end of the game, and that's where the end of the story will be, which I doubt. I'd imagine they would lead it into something open for Sea of Thieves too. But regardless, until that time comes when you really want to conclude things, you want to just build that world, have all those pieces in place on the chessboard. That's what I think they're doing. So we don't want to see a Flameheart get defeated and have a big moment and see a bunch of tall tales. You want this world to be opened up, and now they can write books or comics or have little adventures and the thing with all these places here to enrich your world, to give you a foundation to build upon.
It's funny that you bring up the fact that they have the opportunity to bring in so many things like the comics, because just recently Rare actually retweeted or sent out a tweet kind of saying like, hey, do you want to get some free comics, because they've got 11 volumes of Sea of Thieves free that is available through the actual like Kindle store or the Kindle app. So if you go onto like Amazon and you go to their Kindle app, you can actually go get all of the comics that they've released for the game for free, including stuff like the Sea Dog Search, which kind of ties into the mysteries that they've had, like some of these hanging threads laying in there, as well as like some of the backstory to some of the other stuff, as far as
wasn't there like a hunt for DeMarco's soul or something?
Yeah. So, and that's actually probably something that will end up coming to the game at some point that they'll tie back into, but it does open them up to that opportunity. And it's nice that we get these little reminders like, hey, by the way, yes, Golden Glory is happening, between the 16th and the 19th, and yes, we've got stuff like Twitch drops that are coming, I believe from, oh gosh, what was it? I think it's like the 21st through the 24th, I think. I don't know. But we have stuff like that where you can effectively like have those in-game moments where you're looking forward to stuff to do in there. But having all these characters, having the threads kind of laid there, does give them opportunity to kind of play around with some of these external media sources to kind of build out the world, give players like an opportunity to learn more outside of just playing the game. which I appreciate. I like when they have supplemental material like that from time to time. It's nice to give us story outside of the game, even though a lot of people probably won't ever engage with it, but it's there. It doesn't necessarily detract from the experience of the game.
Mm-hmm. The answer, by the way, is the 21st through the 28th.
That's what it was.
I would caution anyone who really enjoys Sea of Thieves to want everything to tie back in. You have, say, the RPG, you have the comics. They can have their own thing, and it doesn't necessarily need to come back in. It can come back in as a nice little, hey, look, there's a chessboard on the loading screen that's a reference to someone who played chess with Flameheart in the comics. Very cool. But you don't necessarily need to have those big moments to come back in. You've built a world so that you could branch out. You don't want all those branches coming back in. It gets messy.
I think it does get messy. I think the trouble is that so much of what Rare has said with the comics and with the books and stuff is that is all canon. Mm-hmm. And when you start pushing out canon to the story of Sea of Thieves, the video game, out into other areas, mm-hmm. you would hope that there would eventually be something that brings them back in, because the goal is to give players an opportunity to live the world outside of the game, but eventually you want everyone in the game to be able to get some of those storylines that are important.
What you do is you bring them in when they're relevant. So, say for whatever reason, we get a Hunter Calls update, and they want to have DeMarco be a part of the Hunter's Call as he does some sort of fishing thing, and they thought that would actually fit really well with the new fishing thing that they're going to involve into the game. Well, then you need to answer what happened to Marco, and then you can have something in there referred to how his soul was saved. Until that's needed, you don't need to dip into that well, and then kind of have the random lore just spouted randomly until it's relevant.
I feel you on that one. It's one of those things that I think, so, and realistically, I think one of the main things is because if you read the comics, you know DeMarco's alive, that it's one of those things where, and wow, if I'm going to be wrong about that, that'll be the thing that kills this podcast. But the idea is that you want to bring DeMarco back to the Sea of Thieves. So the idea there being you would want to have that brought back to the game so that anyone that was actually like following the in-game event that they had as far as like DeMarco's death and who killed DeMarco and stuff, they get some positive resolution to that in the game if they've never checked out the comics.
Yeah, you absolutely do not want to make them go to the comic to learn the relevant piece of information, but you want to reward the people who did read the comics with, oh, I get this, I know what this is referring to. It's a very delicate tightrope. As somebody who's in season 3 of a podcast who with each season is longer than all of Game of Thrones, let me tell you, it's a challenge. I happen to be of the opinion of I treat my listeners very mature and I don't hold their hand, and but I definitely have things in there that let me think. Maybe I think an example might make this easier. I'm trying to see if I can think of one. You have something I want to refer to in season 1. Let's say in season 1, a player was killed because and the way he was offed was a bunch of animals got to him and killed him and ate his corpse. And then when you go to the necromancer's castle in season 3 and you find he has an animated skeleton fighting for him, and the skeleton has a bunch of gnawing marks on all of his bones, a season 1 listener can go, oh, that's the character from season 1. But I don't have to be like, and he's got a necklace, and the necklace has a locket, and it has the name of him and the name of the character from season 1.
Mm-hmm. I think that would be kind of a good way to approach this with Sea of Thieves, and anything it could be as much as just like if you were to go up to the Sea Dog's Tavern, it would be tidied up, and there'd be like a list of things to do with a couple of things checked off that like it just says like to-do list, and it's got like DeMarco's gloves next to it or something, something kind of like a nod to say like, oh, well, this is something new to the game. DeMarco's been here. He's out and about doing something. He's not actually dead. Or maybe, like you go over to Sea Dog's Rest and you see DeMarco's bones are gone, but there's a little tombstone, and etched in the tombstone it says, "I died here." You know.
Right now, you would have to explain to a player who DeMarco was, and to explain why the heck he's gone and how he's back. You don't understand? So you don't need to really explain how this guy's back if you don't even know who he is until he's back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look how long this line is from Fisher from the Tower.
I don't even know where you're at. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's pretty good. I didn't know you were over there. I didn't realize you
can fish from, I think, almost any vertical point. Don't quote me on that, but I've certainly done it from Crow's Nest before.
Yeah. Yeah. Back when you could reliably like hang off of a ship. One of the spars, you could actually do a lot of fishing off of that as well too. That was always fun.
Have you gotten a bone ancient scale yet?
No, I haven't. At least I don't think so.
Rare ones are
Back to the original question, with the captain being kind of a new threat to Sea of Thieves, the thing that would even scare Flameheart because of, just like him being like his former captain, being in charge of the Dark Brethren court, being the thing that I think everyone that follows the lore is interested in, because it may actually herald in the coming of Captain Hook, which has very much been the tease of the captain. I'm kind of looking towards that and thinking like that is the thing that I am very interested in at the moment, to kind of see like, this is what they did with Flameheart. They justified Flameheart with the burning blade. What can they do if they were given the opportunity to bring in someone as like prestigious as Captain Hook, or infamous as Captain Hook? And would they go all out? Would they do like a full-on kind of Peter Pan bringing back Jack Sparrow tall tale thing?
You made me think there for a moment. As a perfect illustration of what we were talking about, they put a button essentially on the Dark Brethren in the Tall Tales, and then watch how much they've been floundering trying to keep them involved, because it was an interesting concept. They don't want to make that mistake again by putting a button on any part of the factions in this game, because then it's tough to grab a story around them. Dark Brethren's really interesting. I think we all want to keep making them work, but the truth is that they really got a pretty tough conclusion. Tough in the sense that it's hard for their story to continue in that tall tale. And they've done some good and some bad. I'm not saying it's all been bad with future stuff in the Dark Brethren. And it hasn't helped that they kept dropping the ball. But to answer the question you were just asking, I lost your question.
Should they move forward now that Flameheart is kind of in the game?
Well, let's soak in it a little bit. He's here now, and now when they introduce new things into this game, I've got a whole other reason for it to show up. I guess they've always been using him, now that I think about it. Like the skeleton, the sea forts or the phantoms were Flameheart coded, yes. And
sure, we'll agree to that.
Right? Yeah, I don't know if it's anywhere in game, but it sure was out of game. They won't fire on the Burning Blade, which I've used to win a battle versus a crew that was much better than me when I was crewing the Burning Blade. I just went to that camp and used the extra cannons, putting some extra pressure on their ship. So you just have another reason, another explanation for new things coming in the game.
Yeah,
I think we're going to be coasting on that for a little while before we get like new factions or things like that. Like we all have the GMU as our next big introduction of something. I would be shocked if they defeat Flameheart to introduce the GMU, as opposed to not just another part of the world, a new area. It's like the map opening up in a fantasy world, because we're now on the fourth book, and hey, there's this whole land up to the west that we haven't talked about. The Pandaria has opened up. And now look at all the things we can do here. We didn't destroy Azeroth to get Pandaria.
You mean there's been a giant turtle with an island just somewhere in the world? We just haven't noticed it. It's been shrouded in. We just thought that mist was there. Yeah.
It's for me. I don't know if I've ever said this, but it has been a sort of a quiet. Don't say the quiet part out loud, which is in my world that my podcast takes place in, there's got to be a lot more in this world. Like the regions we've talked about mapped out, it'd be a pretty small planet. So we were talking about all these big moving and shaking things happening here. What could be going on in the rest of the world? We're talking about worldwide threats, but we're not even mentioning like all of the world. That's what you eventually get the problem of the where were you during the whole Thanos event? Oh. We've expanded the world, but we had this huge major thing happen. I was off world. I was taking a nap.
Yeah,
I slept through the whole thing.
It's funny you bring up something like that and how it ties into Sea of Thieves, because it absolutely reminds me of the movie 28 Days Later, where effectively the whole film is about this story about some people trying to survive the zombie apocalypse in the UK. And the depravity of humankind when law and order break down, and there's no recourse for it. There's no sense of justice. There's just sense of survival. All of it and unfortunately a bit of a spoiler, so apologies if you haven't seen it. Like skip forward 15 seconds. All of it to find out that it's just located in the UK, and everyone else handled the zombie apocalypse much better. And nothing else in the world is actually like distraught. Yeah, and that's kind of what it feels like with Sea of Thieves, where it's one of those things where you think about like what's going on in Sea of Thieves, and it's one of those things where you kind of hope that something would happen in Sea of Thieves, where like an expansion happened. If like the roar closed up and the shroud moved back across, and then the shroud opened up another area, and it was a winter zone somehow in the middle of the Bermuda Triangle, or something like that. And you're like, what else is going on in the rest of the world that Sea of Thieves is just kind of like left to its own thing? And that's kind of why like I'm interested in what's going on with the Captain and the GMU, because I think that those two entities right now are absolutely like sections of Sea of Thieves that are outside of the purview of what's going on with the Shroud right now. So like what is going on with them? Obviously we must still be in a time frame that piracy and stuff is still going on, because obviously the comics, the books, they're all kind of lending to that credence. So it's not like we're just trapped in time and it's really like 2022. But it does make me wonder like how those introductions are going to take place, and how they're going to weave the narrative into Sea of Thieves with them coming in from the outside.
I'd say, smell the roses while you can. Enjoy the story that's here. Don't have to jump forward so much. Flameheart just got back. I think there's a lot more to enjoy here before we jump into the GMU and Captain. I understand why you're thinking about it. They have dropped hints about it. The Captain got mentioned forever ago with those tall tales. The GMU with the introduction of the Sovereigns, very GMU focused, even if it was in subtle ways. So like they keep bringing it up, so I can see why you're like, so resolve it, give me something. But right now, Flameheart's just back. Enjoy Flameheart for a bit before we're jumping into. Oh, I haven't done that in forever. Scroll wheel, there went my fish.
Rip.
And
that is why that's why I switched to controller. That right there. And don't get me wrong, like I hope that no one takes this as like, okay, cool, Flameheart's here, what's next? That's most definitely not where I want the narrative thread to be pulled, because I do want them to linger on Flameheart for a bit. He's been there since the beginning, and we finally have him, and we finally have a world event that really justifies it. I'd be even willing to say like they need to implement kind of special weekends where like each world event is one that's kind of ramped up, so things are like a little bit harder, so like the accuracy on the burning blade for this weekend is going to be it's going to be more accurate, it's going to be more deadly.
I don't know if you remember the fire fleet, but that was nasty.
Yes, it was very nasty, but something like that, and obviously the rewards would coincide with the difficulty. You'd want it to be something where people felt rewarded for the investment there. Have like 2 chests of fortunes on board if you want to do something like that. That harkens
back to when they used to do events more frequently. We're having a super world event where all the events are super up.
Yep. Yeah, they've strayed away from that. I want to say a lot of it is just due to them wanting to be a little more focused in on stability. It feels like that's kind of like the biggest issue right now with the game is just some of the issues that are going on with crashes and stability with game performance rubber banding.
It took them a while to get their groove of what bringing stuff out in this game looks like. They're still, since we're talking about it, obviously, they're still trying to figure out what their groove is for the actual storytelling part of it, the meaty storytelling.
Yeah,
Flavor to me has always been kind of a little bit of a goofball. Like all his plans always kind of failed in the most miserable, funny way. I'm shocked he's done anything, and his burning blade back even. So like, what does a Flameheart Sea of Thieves look like? He's king, cool. I'm pretty sure we can still do all the things. He still encourages pirates to steal from one another, and doesn't even in their own faction. What are we fighting against? Oh, the Pirate Lord would have you believe he's all we hold dear. What's changing? Huh? Really?
I think that his intentions are to, tear down all the outposts, to make everyone.
Oh no, could you imagine this game without the merchants? Oh no, Flameheart needs to be stopped.
Hey, look, there's a lifestyle here that's, they're forming their own unions, and you bring in these union busting reapers and who's the bad guy?
Oh,
Come
they
on.
are the real villains.
I do kind of think like, everything is very much like tongue-in-cheek piracy. It's the fantasy of piracy. It's not to be taken too seriously. I mean, we're sitting here talking about it while fishing. How seriously are we really taking ourselves as pirates?
Sure.
With a giant angler fishing rod and a gold chained hook. Like, things are a little goofy overall. So I forgive anyone for wanting to just kind of brush off like the importance of something like Flameheart to the game, because at the end of the day it really is just about your enjoyment and the story that you build, and not necessarily what the story of the game is going to be. But there does need to be some narrative, and I just hope that at least with Flameheart this isn't all that's left. It's too often it feels like rare stuff comes out with Rare and they want to push forward, but a lot of the story that they've been telling with the journals and the types of ancient shrines that we're going to, where these rituals are being completed or stopped, it is very interesting to think that eventually we're going to be tying in closer and closer to resolving some of the plot line around, are we actually going to be able to find a cure for the skeleton's curse? Like, is that something that we'd actually be able to?
It's a dangled thread from their trying to find their feet in storytelling in this game.
Yeah. What are you doing with the ship?
Oh, I just wanted to fish across from you. I thought it looked nicer.
Oh, okay. All right. I was trying to figure out. We're also down to like 7 leeches, which is kind of wild.
Splash tails? Ooh.
We're not going to splash tails. We actually probably are getting really close to wrapping up here, because we actually don't have a whole lot of bait left, and we don't have a whole lot of time left. So,
well, I feel like we didn't talk too much about the world event. The ship is really cool. What a great piece of set design that ship is. Using it makes it, having a skeletons be your allies is really, really quite cool. And it's a lot of fun to use. You feel tough, even like as a sloop crew, unless you're fighting somebody who's really, really good. You feel like you have a great chance to fend off even a galleon that comes across you. It's a really neat ship. They did such a good job with it.
Yeah, I agree. Very much. I really need to go log into World of Warcraft at some point so I can go grab some video of the ships that they have, especially I think for the Battle of Azeroth, where they had some of the warships for the Banshee Queen, because the layout is so similar that I feel like I already know where to go on that ship.
Really?
It's really weird. It's like I feel like I know exactly how to navigate this ship, even though it was like my first time, and there's only a couple times where I got turned around. But I'm very interested to kind of do a little bit of compare and contrast, because I know personally I've been asking for ships that look like those in the game for a long time, and the fact that the Burning Blade is actually that really does kind of it it really, I'm excited to think of the possibility, because one of the things that I think, you know, I've been talking about for a while is the way to dynamically change your ship in game mid-session. Sure. This is the first time that they've been able to prove that that's something possible. This is the first time you can actually get rid of your ship and get onto a new ship.
Right.
And they said that this wasn't possible. So if they can do this with the Burning Blade, I genuinely am curious, like, when can we ditch ships mid-session, same server, and upgrade or downgrade to a bigger or smaller ship?
Come aboard, Logan. Let's cook our fish and turn them in, since we're going to end soon.
Okay.
Ooh, interesting. I didn't even think about that. That's a really good point.
I was trying to think about the logistics of the Burning Blade if you wanted to, because for all intents and purposes, you know, when you log on, when you claim that ship is big enough to man 4 people. You know, that was an issue with when you were actually sailing on a sloop or a brig. Like, you couldn't bring anyone onto it. You would literally have to get rid of that ship. With the Burning Blade, you could have up to 4 players, even if you start out as a duo crew. Now, I don't know. I don't think you can actually get 4 players to join you because of the nature of the way the world event is. Wait, but it seems to me like...
Are you saying it seems possible, or that I can actually have start as a sloop but get 2 other people?
I'm saying that the concept of that is probable.
Yeah.
I don't think you can, but it very much does feel like one of those situations. Like, if we can do this, they should be able to allow us to change our ship type mid-session.
I will say, I don't know what their obsession is with leaving your ship. They did it with the underwater shrines, and now they're doing it with the skeleton camps. They really want you to leave your ship and go underground. I don't know, honestly, how fun that is. The camps are, I don't know if they're very fun. They're cool for a short time. I don't know if that game loop of going around the camps and then turning in is the most fun thing in the world.
I don't think it's intended to be fun. I think it's intended to be an opportunity maker. Like, the reason you're doing it is purely just so that you can actually have people be forced to go and actually go after them, and you're forcing players to go around the entire Sea of Thieves to complete each one. So the likelihood of you being able to complete all 6 or all 8, depending if you have the skeleton curse or not, is intended to just actually have people like come across you. Like, you're going to be moving eventually, because otherwise I would imagine if there wasn't, then people would all just stay in one sea and you'd never see anyone. And people might go to the, you know, think of it, if it were just like a normal ship and you didn't have those new skeleton forts to go to, then people would be out in the roar and no one would want to bother, because they would just hunker down underneath a volcano and let the skeletons repair and just turtle any oncoming ship. So having them like go around to do those little skeleton rituals, I think, is kind of a way to ensure that the ship is always moving. It's always doing something when it's actually manned.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which I forgive them for not making that the most absolutely interesting thing to do.
Yeah, if it took too long, we'd all be complaining. How am I supposed to do this? And it's extremely boring. And I get sunk all the time before I get my 8. Yada yada yada.
It's
definitely making it short was smart. And the environments down there is cool. Have you? I don't really know the lore. But I'm waiting for you to explain it. Have you investigated the lore of the notes and the body that's left there, or is that a tease for a future episode?
You know, I watched Rare Thieves' take on it and Captain Falcor's take on it, and I kind of agreed with them as far as like them just kind of telling the story about the mom and the prince, and kind of the story that they initially kicked off when we got all that Briggsy stuff. Remember when we were doing the Briggsy adventures and we were using the constellations to get the story about like all the weird stuff that was going on with Briggsy chasing after this concept of finding the cure to the skeleton curse. A lot of it does kind of like lead into that. that Ancients territory, which is awesome to see that, you know, they're still kind of like laying the groundwork for whatever the end of this story will eventually be, if it does end up having an ending. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't do much outside of just kind of furthering the backstory about some of these characters. So I mean, I'm still in the process. I need to go back and actually, when I get some time. Unfortunately, the biggest thing that's been stopping me has been outside of gaming activities. With my ex moving out and me trying to find a roommate, I've had very little time to actually like delve into the lore and stuff. So I'm hoping that, you know, as things kind of move further and further away from that little epoch, that I'll be able to kind of get back into the lore side of Sea of Thieves as opposed to just playing it, and kind of suss out some of the details and stuff and just get some more time actually on the seas. So
why don't you come down here and cook so that your viewers have something to see?
I have a beautiful view. Are you kidding?
Oh, okay.
Dude, I got the world event going in front of me. There's a giant big blue moon.
Fishing, but anything else.
Well, we're not fishing right now, camper.
This is part of it. This is part of the experience. Let me ask you the question that I've asked everyone who's done those events with me. When you do there and you either complete or interrupt the ritual in that innermost chamber that you open up after you aligned all the star charts, you see an ancient skeleton, i.e. the one that pops out of the ground with ancient coins, blue and gold. Question is this: is that ritual creating the ancient skeletons, or are the ancient skeletons an ingredient, part of what's fueling the ritual? Are they the ritual's end result, or the beginning of the ritual?
I think that they are completely separate. I don't know that those ancient skellies are being created as a result of those rituals. Something tells me that those rituals are tied to something else that's outside of those creatures in general. But maybe that's just because I haven't paid close enough attention to, you know, some of the stuff that's been going on there.
They're like on that table with the orb, on that altar almost.
The little ancient coins, or
the ancient skeleton. He's a straight up ancient skelly.
Is he?
Yeah.
I can't say that I've actually noticed that it was like one of the specific like ancient skellies.
It is.
Interesting. I'm gonna have to, like, we gotta go over to one after this and actually take a look and see what it is, because that's definitely something that they might be feeding into the ritual. You know, the ancient skelly, like itself, being as rare as it is, I wouldn't be surprised if it's just one of those like very powerful things in the game that they're using as kind of like kindling for whatever their ritual is intended to do. And they're just kind of transferring the power from one to the other.
It's interesting. It's not clear. We can go either way. Yeah, we'll definitely go over and take a look. Because they are so quick to do, it's nice to just boop, boop, in and out. Like almost faster than Sea Force, really.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the bread and butter for Sea of Thieves, honestly. Like, one of the biggest troubles I think with this game is that if you get too locked down into one event or one action, you really kind of get tired of it, and you don't have quite as much patience because you want to get on to go do something else at some point.
I was worried just about going to the bathroom earlier today, because I was like, I've got a 2 streak of my hourglass. I want to go turn it in, but I also really need to use the bathroom. Am I going to lose this because I'm gone for a few seconds?
Yeah. So many times I've like been sailing solo and so nervous. It almost feels like I'm just gonna, you know, like pause what I'm doing, drop anchor, leave, and then hope that nothing spawns on me during that time.
Well, we did a little bit of a galleon hourglass today, which is something I haven't done before. I'm level 250 plus, and most of that's been sloop. I'd say maybe half of it solo, half of it duo. And I tell you what, just like with Arena, doing with a galleon has really increased the fun factor for Hourglass.
Yeah, I think this was probably some of the more fun that I've had with Hourglass. I think our last match was just a bad situation. Just really killed it for me, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was tough.
We ended up getting anchored in between 3 rocks, and just could not recover. One of the things I noticed after the Copper Wolf conversation that we had, that episode really kind of helped open my eyes to just how different a beast Hourglass is in general. But one of the things that I immediately started to recognize as we were kind of playing through was how important just getting sails down on a crew as you're like sailing around them kind of to get that circle. Really, like immobilizing them is it was so important that it can't go without saying that you just have to put that as first priority.
When you don't have any chain shots in Sloop Hourglass, part of you feels like, should I even dive? Because this is probably going to be a really long fight. You need to immobilize or get immobilized. There are times where I'm like, fine. I'm happy that my mask got shot down, because this fight will now actually happen. I'm in a disadvantage, but now we're at least actually, he's not running away, I'm not running away.
Yeah.
There's gonna be hopefully a conclusion now. That's for sure true. But yeah, in Hourglass, those games seem to go a little quicker to me, and getting your mask down just seemed like you were just buying your time until you eventually lost.
Yeah.
The last crew was much better than us. We just couldn't even kill the players once. So yeah, that ends up feeling bad when you're getting dunked on that hard. That happens though.
Yeah, it does. It's, you can only do so much with certain crews. We definitely, like the kids we murdered, no remorse. Yeah, so you definitely go into fights thinking
Hourglass
like,
was a safer sea, so they could have practiced.
how could they possibly practice if they hadn't done any kind of like world PvP
Yeah,
against
if only
skeleton
there was
ships?
some sort of like, giant ship they could have fought.
Yeah, that might. Yeah, definitely would have been. I think that skeleton ships need to have little variants. Obviously.
They should at
like
least type on chat rolls on the deck laughing to get you used to fighting real people.
What you're gonna come across. That's really fair. Especially like after they sink you, I think it'd be really good for them just to be like a GG. Just reinforce that behavior.
In StarCraft 2, one of the like features of the AI as opposed to StarCraft 1 is that they will say GG when they feel they've been defeated, like before you've actually finished them off, and you can accept their surrender. It's amazing. And even like if you are, I think it's solo AI, like have an AI ally, they like put voice lines like, if you're playing as Terran, it's Jim Rader going, "We're gonna go attack the enemy now," when your friend goes to attack. They did a lot for that sort of thing to make it feel like you're playing with somebody. That person you had on last episode,
Copper Wolf?
it was what's her name?
Coppertail Wolf.
Coppertail Wolf, CTW. The insight was amazing because she's playing Hourglass at a whole nother level than me. I actually don't even really play Hourglass. I got what I needed out of it. I was done, and then now I'm playing it again just to get the new stuff. But to hear like the unspoken rules, I can't stand unspoken rules. But I see their place obviously. But I like their attitude of, if you don't follow it, you're gonna shoot curse balls at me. Okay, well the game on, and I'm not mad. People who get mad over that, it's in the game. What am I? I can't stand it. I want to say so many things at once. I can't stand it. Oh, so you can buy supplies with your gold, but I can't find stuff around for free. Very cool. What an interesting walled garden you've created here. If it's in the game, we can use it. Aside from exploits, obviously that was a big issue recently. And all your tools are available to you in this adventure. This is in a separate mode, like an arena. Stop trying to make it that. We have the tools we have, and sometimes it can level the playing field against somebody who's much better than you.
Yeah. I think the intention there is at a certain elo, you're going to be running into people who are just really high skilled. And some of the unspoken rules there are just kind of ways to help kind of like build a bridge and just say like, hey, you know, we both understand who we're fighting. We know who's going to be on this stamp and how that's going to operate. So we'll go in with the mindset that we aren't going to try and tip the power scale by using things that would not necessarily be on a stock ship, and go into the mindset knowing like, okay, you can have as many cannonballs, planks, blunder bombs, you know, chain shot as you want, because those are things that are readily available on default ships. It's just the quantity that pulls the difference away.
Yeah.
But things like Disney sticks or curse balls or bone, what are the bone bombs
collar.
called?
I lost
Bone
to somebody
collar.
today who
Why is
used
it?
a bone collar on me to clinch the victory, and he apologized. And I said, "Don't apologize. Good call. That was a perfect move."
Yeah, it's really a strong move. Honestly, it's one of those moments where you're just like, "Yep, that was the intended use for these.
Yep.
It was intended to be enough of a distraction, enough of a headache, no different than fire, and everyone's okay with fire."
But yeah, it was interesting seeing her insight of what things look like at a high level.
Yeah, I really appreciated her discussion. I definitely want to bring her back to the show to be able to talk about the Burning Blade and her experience with it as a result of having more time to play with it. But I genuinely think it would be more interesting to have her brought in post season 14, when we finally get the grapple gun, the squatting, and the nerf to the blunderbuss, because I think that's something that's been stressing a lot of people out with how are they going to survive in the upcoming meta change.
All right, what do you say about screw the last of these fish? Let's turn in what we got and go look at that ancient skeleton.
Sounds good to me.
Oh, we let that storm pass right by us.
Yeah, we sure did. Good thing we didn't need any Twilight Stormfish, Caleb.
Thank goodness.
I sat here and just did my due diligence watching that fish cook.
Oh boy, I can not tell you how happy I am to be done with fish. But hey, at least all this catching will allow me to get some trophies on my ship here on this captain ship. Oh wait, oh no!
Save her seas, how could you? It's like when your cat accidentally pukes on the carpet and you're like, no, don't do that. So disappointing. You were such a good cat when you were a baby. Who am I kidding? I've never actually had a baby kitten.
Yeah, I could tell because they're menaces.
That's very true. Getting to these little skeleton forts, I'm kind of curious. Oh wow, that was all of them. Oh no, we got a bunch in the bottom. Okay, I didn't realize we had some in the bottom of the ship as well too. The little skeleton ritual guys. Everything's called a skeleton fort in my mind, so I never
Skeleton
know
fort,
what to call
sea
it.
fort, skeleton camp.
Yeah.
Oofda.
Yeah, it's names are just names. You know, we're not necessarily a very inventive lot of pirates when it comes to names. But I gotta say, the design, the concept, the availability for both those that are on the Burning Blade versus not, masterful done. I think they really took what worked out well for the again, words escape me. The little emplacements that are out and about the sea forts. I think that they learned what was fun about those and just kind of added enough adventure to them to really kind of draw people in from both sides of the game, both the PvP and the PvE side. The folks that wanted to do PvP in game have a reason to grab the Burning Blade and go around and sail around and do those for some extra gold. entice other people to be able to like come and attack them. Likewise, the PvE folks are going there, stopping the rituals to prevent Flameheart from completing enough of them for, you know, the reason that he's trying to complete them for. And as such, you know, they can go and do these without necessarily having to engage in the PvP aspect of it. And I think they've done a really good job balancing both PvE and PvP aspects to these as both an incentive and just a kind of evergreen content for the game.
Was there anything else introduced with this patch? The wind change? Anything else? I should say this major patch, like the season.
I'm trying to
world event.
think, because that's actually kind of interesting to think about, because I'm having a hard time really kind of thinking like, what did we actually get? I think Flameheart was such a big part of it that it's
I think it may have been all of it almost. Not that I'm not looking for more because I didn't have enough. I'm just trying to think if there's any other little changes that we could talk about.
I mean, that's the gist of it, right? Like we've accomplished as far as like the majority of what people are actually enjoying in this. It really does kind of come back to the fact that it's the Burning Blade, and just being able to finally have that in the game and actually like see, you know, like what else do we really need? You know, obviously the Burning Blade is kind of the biggest thing. The skeleton camps are the next biggest thing. Having the little ancient temples for the lore is nice. The Blade of Souls as like an actual weapon, even though it's an item that you can turn in, kind of a new take on the Disney stick at this point. Like weapons are something that you can sell, kind of like kegs. But the Burning Blade being an interesting thing that I haven't really seen a whole lot of people like getting and wanting to use on a regular basis. It doesn't seem like anyone's really talked about like that being the best thing. Like obviously I think last season, I think throwing knives were the best thing for last year, and being able to like use the harpoons as a traversal mechanic, really good thing. But outside of that, you know, I think the Burning Blade and the skeleton camps are kind of like the big thing.
It's like the Ashen Wind Skull. It's a tool, but most often you try to sell it. And yeah, I should experiment a little more about that sword being a tool, supposedly a knockback. I'm assuming more damage, fire damage as well. I like to see that in both PvE and PvP aspects.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I'm with you there. I haven't seen it, nor have I used it much in that aspect. Most people are trying to sell it right now.
So here's one of the fun things about playing the game whilst doing the podcast. The batteries on my controller just died. So my little Starfield controller was just died on me as I was just slowly turning the boat left or to the right.
I was about to wonder bomb you off it. I didn't know that you'd reconnected something. They did great with the environments in this place.
Oh no!
Like new furnaces and stuff.
Oh yeah, looks great. I'm now eternally stuck at slightly moving right. Oh no, wait. Oh, phew. I just barely fixed it. Had that weird moment where the game was like permanently stuck on slightly shifting to the right.
My friend does fighting games, and so I'm gonna learn Killer Instinct to play with him. And the controller I have drifts, and I don't know if you know much about fighting games, but you put pretty precise inputs to do combos, and when you're always accidentally adding a left all the time, it does add some complication.
Yeah, not necessarily something you want to have, definitely. So
when you open this gate, it makes a very specific sound effect that you've used in your podcast, and it adds little stingers in between things. And so I think of your podcast every time I've opened that gate, which I must have done at least 100 times.
I love using the little little things in game that we have, like the banjo music, or like the vault door opening or closing. Like those are, I love the little sounds that kind of take you in back to the game. Like when you're listening to the podcast, it's fun to be able to have like just a little bit of something kind of in the background too. Because I think a lot of folks, they listen to the game, or they watch streamers, or they know all the sounds. And when you can't play the game, it's always kind of a bummer, because you just, you're sitting there probably driving or at work, or, sitting through like your kids trying to explain to you something really cool in Fortnite that you just don't care about, or Roblox. Roblox is probably more appropriate. And having those little moments where you can kind of be in Sea of Thieves without being in Sea of Thieves, I think is something that is I really try to like build that into each episode.
The Panther we need to do.
Oh, we need to do the Panther? This is the purple one. I absolutely love it. I can't do the Panther with the little thing in the way though. Rotate me just a little bit. I still maintain that the treasuries in this game need to use the statues that are in the actual like arena, I guess it'd be the best way to describe it, and actually like have each one light up to indicate
tell you what wave you're on.
What wave you're on, like, because you lose track after a while.
Unfocus your light. There you go.
Yeah, I gotta find. It's a butterfly, right? Is it the bat and the owl?
The bat and the owl.
Bat is right there. If you want to rotate to the left and stop. So I really do like these. I really do like these little treasuries.
They're cute.
Yeah, it's like a little bit of a taste of something that you would normally get with just doing a full tall tale, but it's just like an aspect of the game that you usually have to invest so much time to actually like have it work. Is this gonna work?
If it doesn't, don't unfocus. I can move it while you're still focused. The meta way to do this, which you must come up with a meta way, because you do have to do 100 of these.
Oh, don't mess it up.
Is to just always have this rotating and just keep the light at the front.
That is how I actually, for like when I first got into these and started doing them, that was exactly what I ended up doing. Oh wait, hold it. So like I had it unfocused, and I just kind of had it parked relatively in the middle, so that it would kind of show me as I was kind of scrolling across where it was, or which one was like popping up. Oh, I just killed my favorite one. These little obsidian skeletons, by the way. I know we're just back to more skeletons, but I absolutely love the one that has the little arrow mohawk.
I do. I don't like the conical shape of their heads. I love the mohawk. Mohawk's a great idea.
That's a shame, because that's actually, I like how goofy they look. I am never ever. They're gonna nerf this blunderbuss before I figure out how to one blundy stuff properly. Or I could, that works too.
Oh, there's a keg with every wave.
Not every wave. Oh, dang it! This water is fake water. It did not put out the fire.
That's funny. Keg with every wave except the first.
Fake water. Way to go, Rare.
Fake news.
Yeah.
That's right, boys. We're now a political podcast.
We've always been political. There's never been a moment where I haven't been.
The GMU supports that guy? Oh my goodness. Getting canceled.
If people have not worked out that I'm political when it comes to games or just life in general, apologies. It's something that I don't think I will ever not have. If you don't believe me, feel free to go back to the episode that I think it was all the riots during Black Lives Matter and stuff. That was an interesting episode. Go back and listen to that one if you want to hear me get really political. How do you even get on the political stuff?
I don't even meant to say anything at all. I hope no one. I hope that everyone could say that I'm definitely their point of view, and could also say that I'm definitely the other point of view. I have no interest in alienating people.
So you're moderate. Okay.
Oh, you got me. You nailed me down.
I kid.
My hot take, I think we should respect each other.
Oh, I thought you said respect each other. I was like, well, this isn't World of Warcraft, so I don't think that's going to happen. Also, that would be really mean to try and respect someone else.
Oh, my cat.
See, I like how fast this is. It's not really, it's not something that's like, takes a long time.
That is an ancient skeleton, my dude. Straight up.
Are you sure? Because it just looks like a...
No, gold and blue.
The lighting messes with me.
Here, I don't
Is
know
it ancient or is it
helps.
obsidian?
It is 100% ancient. There's no
Alright.
question here. It's got the blue and the gold.
I don't know. I don't call that... it just looks black to me.
It is blue and gold.
I wish I could... Maybe I should... I'm going to change lantern. Maybe I can change my lantern.
Yeah,
to
we both
one
have
of
a
the,
red lantern, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Isn't that true? I will stay down here so it doesn't like close up. I don't know if that would happen.
Okay. Yeah. I want to go change my lantern to something that has like a... What's a good one? Would be a good one. Orb? The orb pretty...
No, that's
blanket.
blue, I think. You want a standard yellow, I think.
Like a standard yellow? I mean, the Sea Dog one is like a standard yellow. I'm trying to get like a lighter color. Oh, that one's most definitely a yellow. What is a good lantern to... See, I feel like the Order of Souls one... That's like a... it's more like a blue one. Because the goal is what I want to do is I want to try and get something that is as neutral a color as possible, so that we can try and get a better glimpse of what it actually is. Because at the moment, it most definitely seems like it's a obsidian skeleton to me.
No, it's got the mottled gold inside the blue. It's an ancient skelly for sure.
Yeah. All right. I think I'm going to have to go with not the Triumphant Sea Dog one. We'll go with the Notorious Souls Lantern, because that is probably the most blue or white of blue lantern as we can go with. The thing that pulls me away from the idea of it being an ancient skeleton is that it doesn't have the ancient skeleton markings. The color's there, but it's hard to know if like the color's there because of the lanterns we're using and the poor lighting, or if it's intended that way.
What do you mean markings?
So the ancient skeletons, if I recall correctly, granted, like, you always get like 5 seconds before you have to destroy it. Mm-hmm. Always have like the little markings on the skull, like on the forehead.
I don't see that. Look at an image here. It looks like what ancient skeletons have that I'm not seeing on this nerd is blue gem. A blue gem. No, it looks like an actual ancient coin in his eye. But that's a silly little thing. You see, this is definitely the pattern of an ancient skeleton. I'm looking at an ancient skeleton right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it has like this, I don't know what you call this, forearm bone. The top of it's gold. The top forearm bone is this gold. The specific fingers are gold. This is a blue and gold ancient skelly.
Okay. I mean, I can't say that I see it as clearly, but then again, I mean, different monitors, colors like that. How many times are people gonna argue?
The whole what color is this dress thing, to find out that monitors can make things look wildly different was shocking a shocking revelation to me.
So that's it's kind of like audio levels and stuff like that. It's always hard to gauge kind of things like that. So I don't disagree that it's possibly an ancient skelly. It seems like it would make sense given the nature of this. Obviously this is like an ancient's tomb. There are plenty of like dead bodies and stuff around here. So very easily could be like an important person in the ancients world. that was like cast as an ancient skeleton, and maybe the ritual was something that was happening naturally so that they were actually coming out and kind of being a part of that. Like, you know, obviously there's like little gold coins strewn about here.
Interesting.
Which could very easily.
So this was here before, like, this ritual isn't a Reaper ritual. This is a ritual that the Reapers are now taking over and completing, that the ancients had started.
Yeah, that's my understanding. Is that these tombs were kind of here long before they were uncovered, and they were part of the ancients and stuff. I just don't know like what the intent was for it. You know what? That is definitely blue, actually. With that orb cracking, the orb of secrets cracking, I definitely would argue that is very much a blue ancient skeleton.
I'm glad we finally. I'm a little shocked at this conversation. It seems so obvious to me. Regardless,
fair.
Let's just play off. Let's have a conversation as if it was. It's an interesting. They burst out of the ground with ancient coins. What's the ritual here? What's the environmental storytelling here? What's it trying to tell us?
I would probably imagine that they are looking to pull the magic of the ancients and put it into these orbs of secret.
So this guy has knowledge that are extracting it from him.
Maybe not knowledge. Maybe power would be a better way to appraise it. Some sort of like, because in Sea of Thieves, and that's something that Mike has been very good about, is saying is that objects, much like the Shroud Breaker, are infused with a certain amount of magic. The Sword of Souls kind of thing. Like each object does that. And in case of like the cursed cannonballs, the original Burning Blades cannons were used to create the cursed cannonballs by pulling the magic from that iron and putting it into the cursed cannonballs. So with the ancient skeletons, these guys obviously have a certain amount of power invested in them. You know, they reward real money as opposed to just golden doubloons. So there has to be some sort of like magical power tied into them. I think what's going on is effectively Flameheart is trying to take the magic from them and infuse it into these orbs through a ritual that will then give them the power to do something with these orbs that will eventually allow Flameheart to continue with his quest to burn down the Sea of Thieves.
If we look around the room, we see that there are other ancient bones. So we can say that it's not all ancient bones look like this skeleton on the table. We also see scrolls around here, a very kind of obvious form of knowledge.
Yeah.
And then we have this ancient skeleton on this pedestal with ancient-made braziers that need to be lit for the ritual to be completed. Which makes me think that the orb is also ancient, that this is all manufactured by the ancients that the Reapers are just jumping and taking. I wouldn't say that the Reapers brought in these orbs. It's all part of here. So perhaps we also see books here.
I think I would disagree a little bit about the orb thing. I think the orb is something that Flameheart's crafted to use as a vessel.
So say the ancients have been they put knowledge into the bones here, turning them this mottled blue and gold, infusing these bones with magic and ancient knowledge, and then the Reapers are drawing it out of the skeleton into the orb, and then the orb goes up into the burning blade. That seems like one step too many if the orb is Reaper generated. You think it would go straight to the burning blade?
It's hard to know based on like what they've done versus what's game mechanics versus
Well, there certainly are Reaper things on this table. The map, the dagger, there's a mask.
Yeah, like they've definitely put in their own. It's kind of like it's an old house on a block that's protected by the government to ensure that it keeps its aesthetic, but they went in and put in their own wiring and made sure the AC is got like installed and stuff. Like it's clear the Reapers are they've got the central AC going in this place. It's not just like, oh, we'll just open up a shaft and let the cool air, the decrepit smell of everything. Like, look at these waterfalls. This is obviously going to cost a lot of mildew just based on that. They clearly have to have done something to kind of ensure that, they're not dealing with too much humidity in this room.
That's why the vault doors were closed,
Yeah, it's actually protecting a lot of these books. These books and scrolls are very sensitive to
Dead
mildew.
Sea Scrolls, they were preserved. It's the only way. Otherwise, touch them, they turn to dust.
It's true.
But it seems clear that this was a place of honor where you bury your dead, or maybe bury scholars. You bury information here in the scrolls and the books. I imagine actually the books are a Reaper thing, trying to transfer from the scrolls to the books. Regardless, then the last thing of the orb is something that you take the knowledge out of the orb, bring it to the burning blade. This middle part here, with what exactly is this skeleton, his origins and his purpose, is what's throwing me for a little bit of a loop here.
I mean, I feel you on that. It's one of those things that may actually get kind of brought out to more light in the future, because something to me at least, it says that these are going to be used for some sort of magical power, and maybe that's why I haven't run into an ancient skelly in a while, and kind of why I haven't bought any new pets, is because these rituals are preventing them from reanimating and popping up from the ground. It definitely explains kind of why they pop up from the ground now that we know that these little hidden ancient temples are a thing. Definitely kind of makes me think like, oh, well, these guys were just crawling out of the crypt at some point, and we're just like, oh, skelly, boom. Right. Instead of like, oh, maybe these guys have some power that they might want to impart on us if we didn't just immediately. Maybe that's why they're running, because they're just like, look, I'm just a scholar, dude. You don't need to kill me. Right. I was just down there reading books. I just wanted to come up because I needed to head to the grocery store because I needed to get some mildew remover for all the scrolls that are getting damaged. Something like that.
They have a bunch of treasure that they're obviously protecting. When they pop up, they see you, they go, oh no, run away, dig back into the ground. I didn't think anyone was here. Maybe that's their role as a protector. They're into this vault here as a protection tool, or were, until a certain point where they've, now are no longer functional, or the Reapers have subdued them as part of this ritual.
Maybe they were criminals, and these were the old pirates of the day, and that's why when they come out of the ground, they have a giant sack of ancient coin that they wanted to try and get. Yeah, they wanted to get away with it, and up until the point where they actually got reanimated, this was their prison, and they were buried with their ill-gotten gains.
Let's hear your listeners' theories of why there is an ancient skeleton here.
Yeah, right. I'm sure they're probably gonna be like, we don't care, we just want to get the ritual done.
For sure.
No, I kid. There's gonna be some lore hounds out there that really want to understand a little bit more about why these guys were here and what is kind of the impetus for them, because I saw the image that you gave me in the Discord DMs, and yeah, it definitely does kind of give me a sense that these are ancient skeletons. We just don't really understand if this is the start or the end of the ritual, and if so, what was the original intent for these guys. I like that you're trying to like hit the thing of incense with a hammer.
There's just a corner sticking out. It's about right.
Oh, well, the game is wonky. You can't really blame them for that.
Well, look, let me thank you for letting me on your show and doing a little fishing and having a chill time together.
Yeah, it's been a while since you've been on. It was good to get some thoughts in with Caleb, even though it wasn't like hey, let's attack the game for all the things that it's doing wrong and go for 4 hours. But I think we did pretty good. We're like 1 hour 40 roughly as far as like what we're actually sailing around and stuff with. So it'll be nice to kind of have like a little video that actually coincides with the discussion.
Yeah.
I think this is something maybe we can do in the future, or something I can do in the future with other guests, but it's something that I think will predominantly have to be in safer seas, just due to the nature of other players and not wanting to ruin their experience or the listener's experience by getting too distracted. And
Yeah.
as always, you know, I definitely appreciate you wanting to come up with this idea and play around with it with me.
Yeah, I like to fool around, have a little fun, think outside the box.
Yeah, definitely. So speaking of thinking outside the box, is there anything that maybe you're, like working on that people might enjoy that's
Sure.
tied to Sea of Thieves in some way?
Yes, season 3 of Trailblazers is in full swing. An episode every, 9 months. It's really working out well. But I'm really having fun with that new season. Go to tblazer.net if you want to get some role-playing podcasts. We edit it a little bit like an audio drama, which I think you might like. It makes the listening nice and smooth. And, oh no! And Trailblazer Academy. It's almost been a year since an episode, so maybe we'll have an episode to have the year anniversary. Be great.
Definitely. As always, if you guys want, Caleb's links are going to be in the show notes if you want to go give him a visit. If you're listening to this just on the podcast version, I would definitely urge you to head over to the YouTube version. This will all hopefully be edited masterfully together where it's seamless and there's no weird issues at all. So you can actually hang out and watch along as we're catching really weird fish and checking out different little adventures down here in the ancient temples.
Cheers, my friend.
Cheers. We will see you guys all next week.
Peace and love.
Bye.